Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with your Hollywoke hot take. All things Hollywood, all things Hollywoke, and this may be one of the most Hollywokest of videos I've done. Greta Thunberg sparks criminal conspiracy probe in India with accidental tweet. Do you like seeing the sausage made? This is how the sausage is made. Um, Greta Thunberg accidentally shared a message showing that she was told what to write on Twitter about ongoing violent farmers' revolt in India, sparking a police investigation, a political firestorm, according to reports. The 18-year-old left-wing eco-activist shared and then quickly deleted a message that detailed a list of suggested posts about the ongoing protest, according to the posts that were saved by Breaking 9/11. The list gave a series of tips on what to post, asking her to also repost and tag other celebrities tweeting about it, including pop star Rihanna. Ouch. Ouch. The veil is lifted and we see how it's all coordinated. As well as the Twitter storm, the toolkit she shared also suggested highlighting planned demonstrations at Indian embassies. And right there, she is internationally famous, and she's a young kid. um it's a lot to be that famous, internationally famous. When she's very young, I and she has some issues, and everybody has them, but she's got some ones that are relatively serious. um but this management of her, it's probably not just her. It's probably Rihanna to a certain extent. Rihanna. I mean, when you're a big celebrity, you're incredibly busy, and Rihanna is at heart a singer, a pop star. She wants to sing and make music, and that's very tough, especially at the levels she is. I mean, she's at the top, baby. So, um, when her publicist comes in and says, "Ooh, there's this big thing going on in India, and we think this would be great for you, and it might increase your sales in India or whatever," and I'm just speculating. I don't have any inside track or anything, but I could totally see that happening. Now, it might be true that she genuinely, I don't know, read about it on the internet and said to her publicist, "Ooh, this seems like a good thing I should be involved with. I feel very bad for the farmers," or whatever. Um, but I kind of doubt it. I kind of doubt it. There are some celebrities that are just, from the moment they start, they're knee deep into this stuff and they know it. And you can kind of tell. Greta Thunberg, I don't know if she knows what the hell she's even talking about, but you can see here it's like she's getting instructions. People who know their stuff, they don't need instructions. Not like this. They might get them and they'd probably throw them away. Like, to give you an example, I would say, what's his face? The Incredible Hulk, Mark Ruffalo. If he got a list like this, I think he'd throw it right in the trash. Sean Penn. I may not agree with their political views, but I'm pretty sure those guys are, they have beliefs. That they're not just putting on a show. But then there are other actors, they just get in on it because it's popular. Ooh, let's badmouth Trump. Ooh, I hear that's good. Oh yeah, that'll be great for your image. Go ahead and do that. So, I mean, this is it's an absolute cluster F, absolute cluster F. And I hope it. I mean, look, Greta Thunberg should just go off, go to college, learn some stuff, not be thrown into the international spotlight every 10 seconds to preach about climate change. She should, if she got a doctorate in like climate science, yeah, then she could come back and really, do some impressive work, I would imagine, if somebody had a doctorate in that stuff. But some teenager essentially lecturing to us about, "Oh, you should recycle." No, thank you. No, thank you. And this shows you that I think she's being handled. She doesn't really, Otherwise, she wouldn't need this. Now, here's a celebrity that she's knee deep in the activism all the time. Susan Sarandon. I mean, she's been doing this stuff for decades, and she's got her and like Tim Robbins. They're liberal, but they got kind of a balance to it, and they do it, and they don't let it overwhelm them. I don't think. Now they probably both have TDS, but they're activists. They kind of are smarter than that. They're not just about TDS. I mean, here she is. Susan Sarandon ripped Democrats for failure on stimulus checks. Don't be surprised when voters don't show up in 2022. Now, I'd be surprised if she didn't show up for the Democrats in 2022, but, she's at least threatening them, which is what you should do. I don't know how realistic a threat it is. I think Susan could be principled enough to say, I'm not voting for the Democrats this time. I think she made a huge mistake voting for Biden. I understand why someone like her would never vote for Trump, but at the same time, Trump is very anti-establishment. I don't think she's so much anti-establishment, but she is very liberal, very sort of hippie. I think she still thinks she is by pushing for Democrats, but Joe Biden is so establishment. He's more establishment than just about anybody, which is why he's the most popular president of all time. Honk, honk, wink, wink. Trump resigns from SAG-AFTRA. For those of you who don't know, SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, and it is all the actors belong to the union. All the big ones. You have to be in the union to be in union productions, or they have to get you a waiver, and so Trump blasted them, of course, saying their union's a joke and all that kind of stuff. And really, the union doesn't do much for a guy like Trump. Like, he doesn't make his money from acting. I personally think the Hollywood unions, if you want to see a really interesting video on Hollywood unions, you should check out Razor Fist video. I think it's called like Hollywood. There's a reason Hollywood's red, or Hollywood was always red, something like that. It's a really good video going through the history of the unions in Hollywood, which are communist in nature. But the unions in Hollywood, they, in my view, they're too powerful, right? Like, if you're in them at just the right window, they're great, right? If you're making enough money so you could be in the union, but you don't make a ton of money, so you need the union, that's like the perfect sort of window. But you're still making pretty good living. For the big time actors, they're just in it. Right? It's not like, it's not really a union for like small time actors. Like, you gotta be at Hollywood level of acting. You've got to be at the minimum level of acting. Like, you have to be at least a character actor or something working on a regular basis. You got to be in the club. But you can still be pushed kind of out. And SAG was basically going to kick Trump out and discipline him on a bunch of things in a weird show of, like, I guess, solidarity with the Democrats of kicking Trump while he's down. I guess. I don't know what they hope to gain. And, it says here the charges which National Executive Director David White levied against Trump at the request of somebody else, I assume, in the union named Cartier's, included Trump's role in inciting the January 6th siege of the U.S. Capitol, as well as a continuing, quote, a reckless campaign of misinformation aimed at discrediting and ultimately threatening the safety of journalists, many of whom are SAG-AFTRA members, the union said in a press release. Well, if you want to die on that hill, SAG-AFTRA, go for it. Because, man, the journalist class, they are not very sympathetic these days. I don't think you're going to see very many of them in the future because people just aren't going to watch their nonsense anymore. I mean, look at the ratings of CNN, in case you need an example. Look at Fox. This was a hilarious story. China demands Canada punish diplomat for Wu-Tang Clan t-shirt. And this is the t-shirt. It says Wuhan, and they took the Wu-Tang Clan symbol and made it like kind of like a bat. So it's supposed to be about the virus, because China doesn't want to be reminded of the virus that broke out in Wuhan and infected the entire planet and maybe destroyed the economy, kind of, sort of, yet. But, you know, this is what China does. They're ruthless. I like how Breitbart defines China as China is an authoritarian communist nation in Asia. Canada is a liberal democracy in North America. The Wu-Tang Clan is a hip-hop group of uncertain administrative structure. Wuhan is the city in China where the global coronavirus pandemic originated, although Chinese Communist Party wants the rest of the world to stop talking about that. Yes, they certainly do. And finally, Hunter Biden memoir to be published in April. What? Wow, this is so unexpected. You mean the son of a Democratic president gets a lucrative book deal? President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has written a memoir. Oh, I'm sure he wrote every word. That will be published in April with a focus on addiction and sobriety. Oh, because no one knows more about sobriety than Hunter Biden. Beautiful Things will be published on April 6th by Simon & Schuster Imprint Gallery Books. April. It's February now. So he already wrote the memoir, which means he was writing it when? During the election? I come from a family forged by tragedies and bound by a remarkable, unbreakable love, Hunter writes, according to the publisher's announcement. Did the rest of that sentence say unbreakable love of prostitutes and cocaine? The president's son was the target of Republicans during the 2020 campaign, primarily over his business dealings. It was primarily over his laptop, which contained pornographic pictures of himself and him smoking crack, and his business dealings with China and Joe Biden's business dealings, Mr. 10% for the big guy. Hunter Biden disclosed in December that he was the focus of a federal investigation of his tax affairs. Oh, I take this matter very seriously, but I am confident that a professional, objective review of these matters will demonstrate that I handled my affairs legally and appropriately, including with the benefit of professional tax advisors, Biden said at the time. Well, of course. His dad is president of the United States. I expect nothing but a squeaky clean, rewritten record for Hunter Biden. Oh, here you go. You did nothing wrong, sir. We're sorry to have bothered you. Can we give you a ride to your car? The publisher provided advance copies of the book to a number of authors. Among them was Stephen King, who said in a statement, ready for this? Quote, in his harrowing and compulsively readable memoir, Hunter Biden proves again that anybody, even the son of a United States president, can take a ride on the pink horse down Nightmare Alley. There are plenty of memoirs about the 3 R's, rum, ruin, and redemption, but there are sections in this one that stand out with haunting clarity. Biden remembers it all and tells it with a bravery that is both heartbreaking and quite gorgeous. He starts with a question, where's Hunter? The answer is, he's in this book. The good, the bad, the beautiful. It's beautiful, Stephen. Jesus, man. Take your nose out of the back of his pants. Hunter Biden was a member of the board of the Ukrainian gas company in Burisma. Yes, he was. In a July 2019 phone call, then President Trump allegedly tried to pressure Ukraine's president into launching an investigation into Biden and his father, potentially damaging Joe Biden's prospect for the 2020 election. What this article fails to mention is that Joe Biden was caught on videotape, not even caught. he was openly bragging that he blackmailed the president of the Ukraine. He says it right on the tape. I'm sure you've all seen it. Biden's like talking about, well, you got to get rid of that prosecutor or you ain't getting that $1 billion worth of aid. And the president goes, oh, you're not the president. Call him. Our plane leaves in 6 hours. Guess what? They fired that prosecutor that just happened to be investigating Burisma and his son. Oh, but Joe Biden didn't know anything about that, even though he went on golf trips with Burisma executives and his son. And even though the laptop that Hunter Biden left behind in a computer store that has been corroborated by his business partners had emails in it about Burisma guys and other people being introduced to the vice president. Yeah, so it's weird that the article forgot to mention that. Continuing, that conversation was central to the Democrats' move to impeach Trump the following December, but he was acquitted by the Senate last February. And here's how the article ends. Here's how an article about Hunter Biden's new book ends. Trump was impeached again in December, and the Senate trial will start next week. Well, okay. What does that have to do with the book exactly? Nothing, as far as I could say. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we have a chance to mention Trump here and slam him a bunch of times. I got all distracted. It's okay. We love when you bash Trump. This will get us a few more clicks. It's like, Jesus, man. You're doing an article about the book about Hunter Biden. How about talking about the book or anything in the book? Man, Stephen King. Stephen King comes up in my Twitter feed all the time because I'm in various writers groups and they retweet him all the time. And, when it comes to writing advice, he's got some great advice. I mean, I like his books. I've read, what did I read? I think I read Pet Sematary and maybe Christine, but I definitely saw his movies. And, the movies based on the books, a bunch of them. But, and he's a fun guy. But, he's got TDS bad. I mean, he was railing against Trump on Twitter all the time. I think, like a lot of people, he's just caught up in the Twitterverse with the Twidiots. And he's getting that reinforcement. But it's at like a higher level for a guy like him because it's so famous, His fans are adoring him. And it's easy for him to kind of like knock off the fans that are saying, "Hey man, you're totally out of line," or "I love Trump, you should like Trump," or whatever. It's easy for him to discard all those guys because, the 75 million Trump fans, most of them aren't on Twitter. In fact, only 2% of the entire population, if that, is on Twitter in the United States. And I think the vast majority of those would lean left anyway. I mean, that's the way Twitter's been going for years, right? So, I could see why someone who is sort of isolated by fame, who would use Twitter, and like Twitter in the beginning was a good gauge of, people on the internet, at least. It seemed that way because it was just random people. It just seemed like randos. But it's not randos anymore. It's been cultivated for a long time. Same thing with Reddit, same thing with a lot of things. It's gone left. I mean, in the beginning it was just a bunch of stuff. But over the years, it just goes further left politically. I mean, the Reddit political subreddit is a perfect example of the way these things go. Because that became such an S show. No one could tweet it. You couldn't post in it anymore. You couldn't forget about getting a post up that was even remotely not left. Instant denunciation the moment you posted in there and argued anything other than whatever the lefty line was. And it was completely taken over by shillery bots during the 2016 election. I mean, it was support Hillary or GTFO. And that's what a lot of social media has become. Now, maybe not as bad as the subreddit in politics, but close to that. And it's radicalized people. It really has. It influences people. And and it can even influence a guy like Stephen King, who's not, he's got such a big line of work in his life. I'm sure he's not on Twitter that much, but he's on it enough that I think it probably influences him, and he thinks maybe he's getting a good gauge of the country. But I would tell him, no, you're not. You're getting this weird slice of humanity that feeds on this. So I don't know. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But Hunter Biden's book, I mean, I don't believe he wrote it. I think it'll be nothing but scrubbing his image clean. Like, oh yeah, sure, he had his problems with drugs and it was terrible drama, but he's a good person inside. He's a real good person, and he struggled, and now he's fine. Now he's good. Forget about that he may have sold us out to China and gotten himself some money, maybe, possibly. I don't know. The laptop's pretty incriminating, at least in my opinion. This is all just my opinion.